The whole pro-life argument is there's no value-giving difference between baby in the womb and baby outside the womb that justifies killing them in the womb.
Whether it's the mother who takes the abortion pills, whether it's the father who, helps the mother get the abortion pills, or the abortionist who gets paid to do it, we're just saying charge all of them with murder.
So many pro-life organizations, they're not even playing hardball.
Texas Alliance for Life is one of the biggest pro-life groups in Texas. They have pro-life grandmas who are sending in a piece of their fixed income thinking that this group is going to help save babies in Texas, and really they're doing the exact opposite.
Here's the bottom line, guys. Okay, if you are pro-life, you must advocate for criminalizing abortion. It's that simple. Ben Zeisloft, author of Forsakers of the Fatherless, a new book, joins me today to discuss what it means to be truly pro-life and anti-abortion. We expose that even in red states with like Republican supermajorities, okay, like Texas and Oklahoma, abortion is not criminalized. It's still legal for mothers to kill their babies. Did you know that many of your favorite pro-life organizations, I know this is where it's painful to learn, guys. We got to wake up. Pro-life organizations don't advocate for actually completely legally protecting unborn babies. Did you know that the pro-life establishment has even like fought against, tried to stop bills from passing that would have saved babies, that would have fully protected unborn babies? It's a conversation that we've had before, but we're diving a little deeper because Ben has written an excellent book that I want you to pick up. Get ready to learn about corruption at its finest. Forsakers of the Fatherless, pick up Ben's book. Give us a rating and review, guys. Let us know what you think, okay? iTunes or Spotify, you can hit 5 stars, and on iTunes, you can write a little review. I read them all. I really appreciate it, but mostly it shoves the show up the charts, so it shows up for more people. More people are exposed to the show. That's one way you can help us. Follow me on Rumble. Rumble is where free speech lives, right? And YouTube. Google overlords digitally assassinated this show just a few weeks ago, and then they had to admit that I didn't violate anything, so they restored the account. I don't know how much longer we have until that is just gone forever. So help us protect the show by subscribing at Rumble. If you're on YouTube, hit the notification bell so you do not miss any new episodes, and join us at the White Rose Resistance to make the local church great again, to activate and inspire Christian resistance at the local level, and stop waiting for politicians and elected leaders to do all the work that actually in many cases the local church is called to do. Okay, go to thewhiterose.life, thewhiterose.life, and join us as an ally of the resistance. That's $35 a month. Get your battle box in the mail. Log into the White Rose app with your donor login, and we've got courses, curriculum, live calls, pro-life masterclass, pro-life apologetics, pro-life activism training. It's $70 a month, air support. You join our Books in the Barracks book club. That's right. We read books together, we talk about them, and we hang out live on Zoom. Come join me. We have a great time with supporters from all around the world, actually. Let's get into it. This is The Seth Gruber Show. Ben, brother, welcome to the show finally.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Super appreciate you. So it's time to rattle some cages. Let's shake the gates of hell together. Unfortunately, most people don't understand that the gates of hell are sometimes a lot closer to home than we realized, huh? Absolutely. And that's what we want to educate people around. We've had this conversation before on my show, but just not with you. But believers need to learn, because unfortunately, a lot of the stuff's been hidden from them, or they've just been kind of discipled poorly into what ending abortion ought to look like. And that the enemies of, let's say, abolition, or the enemies of legal protection for the babies are not who the lay Christian thought they were. And man, when I was reading through your book, I was just so grateful that you put all the data and all the stories together. Because, I mean, you and your folks at your organization were fighting all this. You've seen it all up front. So you've written this new book called Forsakers of the Fatherless. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. Well, as the title says, a lot of pro-life groups forsake the fatherless. So as you're alluding to, it's often pro-life establishment groups that are in the way of finally ending abortion in America. So My book tries to compile the data, do interviews, and give a first-hand account of public and private statements that these groups are making, showing that they're actually not only not fighting for equal protection for preborn babies, but actually opposed to it in many cases. Especially in a lot of red states where they should be able to abolish abortion, where it's, supermajorities in the legislatures and Republican governors. And it's often, Republican name-only organizations that are fighting people like us, Christians who want to see abortion truly ended. And that's the main obstacle in states like that.
So for someone who's maybe new to the fight, because let's be honest, Ben, this is one of the first times on the show that I haven't been talking about Charlie. And I'm wearing the wristband and it's like all we can talk about. So let's just be honest, since the martyrdom and murder of my friend, Charlie, dude, tens of thousands of people are not just getting saved, but they're almost getting let's say enrolled into the fight against darkness, into call it the culture war if you want. But and there's a lot of newbies who are they're fired up for Jesus, but it's not the old school evangelical salvations of just private in your heart right here. These there's this revival going on and people are like, let's go, let's actually contend in the public square like Charlie did. So for maybe new people who are getting seasoned, they're getting their boots wet in the culture war. What does equal protection even mean?
Absolutely. So equal protection, just referring to the 14th Amendment of the Constitution and reflecting the principles of God's law, because, of course, he sees preborn babies and born people as the same in terms of innate value. We're just saying apply the exact same murder, assaults, wrongful death laws that already apply to born people to preborn people as well. So hence equal protection, right? The same laws protect both types of people. Pretty simple. So we should all believe as Christians what we should all be standing for and ultimately fighting for. And I think that's what ending abortion really looks like in America, is finally having that standard. Not treating abortion as healthcare to be regulated, but murder to be criminalized and abolished.
So, Ben, what's interesting to me is when I speak in a lot of churches, conferences, and I'll explain the concept that you just did. I'll say something sometimes I kind of toy with the audience, and this might be fun data to talk about, get your response to. But a pastor asked me, wait, you mean just criminalizing, punishing the abortionist, right? And I said, no, the parents too. And the church kind of went right. And then 2 minutes later, 2.5 minutes, I was basically what we're just saying is to be pro-life means that the child in the womb is equal in dignity, value, and a right to life as any child directly after childbirth and leaving the vaginal canal. And so we just believe if they're just as equally valuable, they should deserve the same levels of legal protection. So, you're saying you want to hang mom, Seth? No, I don't know. I'm just saying that if you were to drown Timmy during bath time in the sink, who's 2 weeks old, whatever would happen to those parents, I think the same legal mechanisms should start moving if you murder a baby in the womb after it's been made illegal at the state level, not retroactively, once it's been made illegal at the state level. And I watched the whole church, Ben, go, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But the case of your book is basically maybe while many lay evangelicals, once you explain it, they're that there's actually lots of pro-life organizations
that don't want that,
some of whom have large budgets that don't want that at all. And for a lot of people, this is shocking, Ben. A lot of people do not know this. Can you start helping us navigate this? Examples, how it started, when it started, why? Let's just wind you up and let you go.
Yeah, so what you said is super simple. If you could be penalized, a parent, mother or father, or a third party who kills an infant or a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old or up to, a 30-year-old person, right? They would all receive homicide charges. They would be penalized just like they murdered somebody with malice aforethought intentionally. We're just saying apply that exact same standard to babies in the womb. So whether it's the mother who takes the abortion pills, whether it's the father who, helps the mother get the abortion pills, drives her to the abortion mill, or the abortionist who gets paid to do it, we're just saying charge all of them with murder. It's very simple because you're taking the life of an innocent human being. We just saw a case in actually Austin, Texas a few days ago where a baby was discovered, a baby girl, you probably saw this, was discovered face down in a dumpster having just been born. I believe the umbilical cord was still attached. So we all agree that, when they find the mother who presumably did this, she should be penalized for attempted murder. But why would we not have the exact same standard for, if she had killed the baby a month earlier or 6 months earlier or 8 months earlier? If we're saying that babies are human beings from conception, we should apply the exact same penalties and treat them equally under the law. So super simple position. And as you said, when you actually talk to everyday Christians about this, they're immediately on board. They're like, oh yeah, why wouldn't we do that? And in fact, in my experience, a lot of people are shocked that a lot of groups, like you said, are against it. So that's a big reason why I wrote the book. So a really good example of that is 3 years ago, there was a bill like that in Louisiana that would just say, establish equal protection, protect all babies in the womb the same as people outside the womb. And the national pro-life establishment, state and national groups, over 70 of them came out with a letter saying, we oppose all legislation criminalizing mothers who would willfully murder their babies. That's what it said. That was their stated reason to the entire nation. And the letter was addressed to every lawmaker in America. Open letter. And that was their stated reason. It was because mothers are always, they say, victims of abortion. And yeah, of course, there are some mothers who are victims of abortion. There are some mothers who are coerced, truly coerced under threat of life and limb into killing their babies. Nobody's saying target them. What we're talking about is the vast majority of cases where mothers are willfully ordering abortion pills or booking appointments at Planned Parenthood. We're saying, yes, they know their babies. They know that they're carrying life in their wombs. They know that they're taking those lives for selfish reasons, usually. So a mother like that should, of course, face penalties. And otherwise, you can't actually end abortion if you just keep abortion legal for women, which is what a lot of these pro-life groups want to do. So if we actually care about ending abortion in America, we have to say, criminalize abortion as murder for all parties involved.
Over 70 groups opposed.
It was over 70. Yeah, state and national.
Jeez Louise, dude. But, okay, so I'll play devil's advocate, Ben. But you know what? I mean, listen, people's moral compass and cultural standards need to catch up, Ben, before you start instituting these equal rights protections. It's just not fair. Women have been lied to for decades by the society, by the porn industry, by the Planned Parenthood speakers at their school, by the incredible propagandistic machine of advertising that pushes abortions, feminism, which is like the invisible particles that we all breathe in this society. And so they've just been indoctrinated into believing this. And so you're saying if a state bans abortion, the very next day after it's banned, a woman should be able to be treated with homicide charges for killing her baby. Why don't you just be more compassionate, Ben, and let the society be educated a little bit about embryology and the humanity of the unborn child before the legal penalties start? That's just loving and compassionate. Like I've heard things like that. How do you respond?
Yeah, I mean, that's everything you just said is true. There are a lot of lies in the culture. There's feminism. There's, the general culture, Hollywood, institutions that say, yes, abortion is not only accessible, it's a positive good. But that's all true. But we are accountable for the lies we believe ultimately. So, if you look at a place like Chicago or St. Louis or an urban environment like that, it's a very pro-death culture. Kids grew up and by the time they're 18, they're committing felonies and murdering each other and doing drive-by shootings. Nobody says, because those people don't have fathers in the home or because they've been propagandized by the culture of death, that they should just be absolved of all murder charges. Nobody says that. But it's a specific example of a mother who willfully murders her baby in her womb to continue staying in college, to just avoid the responsibility of being a mom, to continue sleeping around. I mean, as I was telling you before we started shooting, we do abortion mill ministry in Philadelphia, and there are moms sometimes who we encounter who've had 7 or 8 abortions, and they'll tell us, it's because we want to continue sleeping around. Because, I remember one woman who said, we just want to F. That's it. That was what she was shouting, walking into the abortion mill, about to have her 8th abortion, if I remember correctly. It's not a mystery what is going on. And oftentimes because, our laws have allowed for so long the legal right for a mother to murder her child, they're very open about it at this point. They're like, yeah, it's murder. It's my right. I don't really care what you say. And they'll walk in without a second thought. And the way that we reverse that is by letting the law be a tutor, right? As scripture says, the law tutors us. It points us to what is right and true and good, and ultimately points us to Christ, showing us that we're sinners. We've broken his moral law. But in terms of civil law is meant to restrain evil. So if we want to stop abortions and teach the culture that abortion is bad, that's the quickest way to do it, is to say, if you murder your baby, you're going to be penalized for it.
But first, we want to thank our sponsor of the Seth Gruber Show, Every Life Diaper Company, the only pro-life, it's like pro-America diaper company in the country. It's insane how many tens and hundreds of thousands of Christian conservative pro-lifers are actually funding a culture of death. And you can't destroy a culture of death, bankrupt a culture of death if you're funding it. It's pretty simple. Too many of us have been getting our diapers and baby supplies from companies who either rhetorically support abortion or in some cases financially support abortion, which is, of course, the murder of their future clientele base who will not need diapers because they were slaughtered in the name of radical feminism. That's the woke mind virus. You have to fight back with your wallet. We want you to support the white rose resistance, but this is like the easiest thing to do is if you're having babies and you need diapers and baby shampoos and wipes anyways, go buy them from a company that is the fastest growing diaper company in the country, actually, and they're fully pro-life. They donate diapers to pregnancy centers and to disaster relief efforts all around the globe. Our friends at Every Life Diaper Company, I know the founders personally. They're wonderful human beings. Everylife.com, promo code Seth10. Everylife.com, promo code Seth10. That's Seth10 for 10% off your first order. And it lets them know that I sent you, which benefits me and you and Every Life. Everylife.com, America's pro-life diaper company. Yeah, that's a great point you make. It's a great response. Nobody treats other cases the same. Like, well, they're a victim of a fatherless home, of a sexualized culture, of a friend group that was all doing the same stuff, of the pornography they were exposed to at 8. Like, we can acknowledge that as a real thing without saying, therefore, you should be absolved of all sort of moral and legal accountability for doing heinous, evil things, in this case, intentionally taking the life of innocent babies. So the Louisiana law that was like close to passing, that was actually going to provide equal protection to unborn babies, if I'm remembering that right, tell me, didn't Russell Moore and the Ethical Religious Liberty Commission, the political arm of the Southern Baptist Convention, which is funded by tithe dollars, by the way, of Southern Baptists, weren't they even involved in blocking that? Can you remind us of that story?
Oh, yeah. So Brent Leatherwood, the now former, thank God,
Brent
president of the ERLC, his name was on that letter on the very first page, right? Because he's basically wielding the influence and clout of the Southern Baptist Convention in American life against criminalizing abortion and saving babies from death. So that was a big reason why there was that reckoning this past year, with almost the majority of the SBC voting to completely abolish the ERLC, actually. And then that ultimately leading to Brent Leatherwood's resignation is because people were very frustrated by the fact that he was opposing equal protection legislation with that position. It wasn't just a one-off event. He spent the next 2 or 3 years at every single SBC annual meeting defending that position from the platform. Pastors would rise up and ask questions, trying to test. Yeah, you've probably seen clips like that, and he would just double down, ridiculous, manipulative things saying.
Yeah, how did he defend that? I saw one of those clips. What was he saying?
Yeah, one, he said, we don't want to, what was it? We don't want to submit to how Planned Parenthood views us as against women, essentially, as anti-mother. We need to be pro-mother and pro-baby. So sort of this toxic empathy, emotional sabotage language, as our friends Joe Rigney and Al Stuckey would say. That's the kind of excuses he was using to oppose just ending abortion in America. And it was rather absurd, and he faced the penalty for it.
Wow. Do most Southern Baptists, just lay Southern Baptists, providing for their families, going to church, loving Jesus, do most of them support the basic concept of equal rights protection?
Yeah, certainly. So the year before the whole 2022 debacle in Louisiana, the Southern Baptist Convention actually passed a resolution endorsing equal protection and abolition. So the previous year from the floor,
full-blown SBC.
That's right. Yeah, the entire convention approved it, and that was the official position of the SBC. And yet, the very next year, Brent Leatherwood and the ERLC ran the opposite way. So they've done that on a number of issues, of course, on gun control, on Ukraine funding, you name it. They've probably gone progressive on it, unfortunately. So they're just ignoring the will of the messengers, and that's of course a big frustration in the SBC. Is the institutions not actually reflecting the will of the people, and that's why you're seeing the kind of turmoil in the SBC currently.
Why is it that anything but equal rights protection just inevitably ends up prolonging the achieving of our goals, which is to actually like legally abolish abortion. Why not just chip away at it a little bit, Ben, and only propose bills that we've polled the public on, right, that we think will be able to pass? Why not just do that?
Right. The ultimate reason is because we don't fear man, we fear God. God has told us to abolish abortion. God has made clear that the Sixth Amendment, you shall not murder. That's the ultimate standard, and that's what should be applied in our public life. So as you mentioned, there's a lot of pro-life groups who do actually poll people. If you go on Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America's homepage, you can find an entire page of polls that they've done. And, most Americans support these reasonable limits on abortion. Of course, the reasonable limit is 15 weeks. And, that allows for 2/3 of abortions to continue, if not more, if I remember correctly.
Or more. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because, of course, most abortions happen earlier. But if you just chip away at abortion and try to incrementally regulate it, it sounds good. It sounds like you're saving all the babies you possibly can. But ultimately, you're just adding restrictions and obstacles that can be subverted and went around. So every pro-life law ultimately says, and then you can kill your baby. So once you have it before 6 weeks, rather, with the heartbeat law, as long as you comply to that standard, then you can legally murder your baby under cover of law. Or, there are even more absurd examples of that, like the proper burial laws, things of that nature, where as long as you bury properly the victim of the murder you just committed, then you're allowed to do that murder. I mean, apply that to a born person, a serial killer, right? If we just tell serial killers, you can kill as many people as you want, just make sure you bury them properly instead of stuffing them in your basement. That's completely unjust, absurd. But we have, unequal weights and measures when it comes to preborn people because we see them as subhuman. Right. So that's ultimately what needs to change. And we need the moral urgency of actually immediately abolishing abortion, especially in states like we're talking about, like Louisiana and Texas and Oklahoma and Missouri that are deep red. There's really nothing left to do after Dobbs. There's no more excuses. Roe was the excuse for a very long time. Now that we have Dobbs, and the Supreme Court has explicitly said, the people and their elected representatives can make their own laws on abortion. There is zero reason not to do something like that.
Zero reason not to. Yeah. The only area where you and I might differ, Ben, is I'm okay on principle with a less than perfect bill if you started with trying to get the perfect bill. If your goal was to actually fully ban abortion and give the unborn equal protection, and you had 1 or 2 sessions of failure, and so you made some stupid concessions that made you want to blow your brains out, but you did it because you wanted to save some babies immediately. I'm okay with that. It's not ideal. What I'm not okay with is with the main argument of your book, which I love. Or the problems you're identifying is what I'm not okay with, is that so many pro-life organizations, they're not even playing hardball, because so a lot of the justifications, tell me if I'm right on this, Ben, is well, we don't have the public. They're not with us on this standard that you're saying you want. But then I feel like that's not how the left operates, Ben. I feel like they play political and cultural hardball on issues that they don't have the public on. But they're so relentless. There's this clip going viral right now of Charlie. Oh, man, beautiful, man. Just in a private room talking to people about going on offense. People should go watch it. And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. The left goes on offense. And of course, they're often better funded than us, Ben. But they change public opinion by playing political and cultural hardball. And they don't go well, we don't have the public, so we're not going to go for whatever the standard is. And so that's what I want to see in the pro-life movement, is even if the polls tell you don't have the public, then just be like the left and just play hardball. Exactly. And get these rhinos in states where we have, right, Ben, a supermajority, and put that kind of pressure on them to push the righteous bills. What's your response to that?
Yeah, we should make it clear to those rhinos, you're either with us or you're against us on abolishing abortion. Again, civil magistrates, Romans 13, 1 Peter 2 is clear. They are servants of God, and God is very clear about what he thinks on abortion. Child sacrifice is ultimately what it is. He requires immediate abolition of it. So any rhino who's going to soft pedal that should be opposed, or should change their minds, of course. But if you look at Donald Trump, he's a great example is on immigration. A decade ago, he came down the golden escalator saying, they're rapists, they're murderers, they're not saying their best. And then within 10 years, he's winning by a landslide on a platform centered on mass deportations. If you had told, Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney just a few years before that that would be happening, they wouldn't believe you. But it's because he's a leader who's actually leading on that issue. He's saying, this is wrong, and if you vote for me, I'm going to actually do my job and oppose it. And people are actually mad at him because he's not going hard enough on it, which is great. But it just shows when the leaders of our nation actually lead the people, whether it's pastors, whether it's politicians, lawmakers, whether it's institutional heads of pro-life groups that are supposed to be ending abortion. When leaders lead, good things happen. I think what you're seeing with Charlie and the Reformation, we're seeing, Lord willing, after his death, is because he was a leader, because he wasn't afraid to actually speak hard truths and demand the culture move to him instead of constantly soft pedaling to the culture.
Guys, don't just watch revival happen. I mean, watch it happen and then do something. Be a part of it. This is an incredible time to be alive. I'm thrilled to announce our second annual Life or Death Con in Washington, D.C. on January 22nd. 2026. This is a one-day event to activate and educate you on how Christians should engage in the culture war. The American church has been on the sidelines for far too long. We are taking back the countryside, but we need you to join us so you can take what you've learned back to your community. Everything's changed now since the murder of Charlie, and we will not let him die in vain, and we will awaken the church that he had such a heart for. We have confirmed speakers Steve Dace, Megan Basham, Abby Johnson, Dr. George Grant, AJ Hurley, and more. So join us. I want to see you there the day before the March for Life. Come to Life or Death Con on January 22nd and then march with us at the White Rose Resistance at the March for Life on January 23rd. Go to lifeordeathcon.com, lifeordeathcon.com to get your ticket today and use code Seth, S-E-T-H, my name, for an exclusive discount off your ticket. I'll see you on January 22nd, 2026. Yeah, that's good. DeSantis is a great example of this as well. White Rose worked with OS Operation Save America last fall to kind of do a pretty good crazy from sunrise to sunset push on just door knocking. And the conversations were fascinating. I mean, so many people, when you tell them actually what this radical abortion amendment entails in reality, not from whatever you heard the talking head on CNN tell you that it means, they're like, oh, whoa, I'm not down with that. You know, and we've known this for a long time, that when people, you've seen the polls, Ben, of like 52% of Americans support, right. No, it's like 75% of Americans support Roe versus Wade. And then you poll how many Americans support third trimester abortions, which Roe v. Wade allowed, and it's like 12%. And you're like, okay, well, then that tells me that a lot of y'all who say you support Roe actually don't, because you don't know what's in it. And we just have to play hardball in educating the public about the humanity of the child. And so I'm totally with you. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the players? And this is where people get uncomfortable, but they need to know. And you've taken a lot of heat for saying uncomfortable truths about, can we call it the pro-life establishment, I guess? Yeah. What are some recent examples and maybe some recent groups where maybe babies were going to have the same protections as infants in a state and then they didn't? Can you tell us some stories?
There's many. Yeah. I mean, I wrote an entire book full of them, but just recent examples of this year, which is after I wrote the book, of course. In Texas, Texas Alliance for Life, which is one of the main pro-life groups in that state, they very, very strongly opposed our bill filed by Representative Brent Money to establish equal protection for preborn babies in Texas. And you had the now former head of that group, Joe Poyman, actually writing letters to lawmakers as they were on the floor, calling them into his office, into the principal's office, we like to say, basically to lecture them about why they shouldn't actually be supporting that bill. And, you know, to our bill sponsors' credit, very few of them actually, reneged and went off the equal protection bill. So it kind of shows that a lot of these big pro-life groups are starting to lose some credibility with this. But again, Texas Alliance for Life is one of the biggest pro-life groups in Texas. You know, they have everyday supporters among the people who probably think, pro-life grandmas who are sending in their, a piece of their fixed income, thinking that this group is going to help save babies in Texas. And really, they're doing the exact opposite. And there's a lot of examples like that across the country. Oftentimes, it's those like old guard, national right to life affiliate groups that are just, they've been around for decades. And, you have the leaders of that group who think that they're going to play 5D political chess constantly and, do all the right things to finally end abortion. Like another example that comes to mind that's actually in the book is Tony Lowinger, who's down in Oklahoma. And he actually advocated recently for reinstating rape and incest exceptions into Oklahoma law, because if they had a ballot measure, that would make people more likely to vote against it, to put abortion into the state constitution. So he is advocating for more abortion, arguably to reopen the abortion pills in Oklahoma, because he's afraid of this possible future result. And a good foil to him is somebody like Dusty Devers, who, like we're saying, is actually a leader on this issue, has galvanized the people because he's bold on it. He ran his campaign on abolishing abortion, and defeated like 3 other Republicans. Yeah. So again, there's the economy. You can either do the 5D political chess and fear the people, or you can fear God and demand that the culture move to you, and then God will bless those efforts.
It seems like such a defeatist attitude, Ben. Like, I heard this from someone else I talked to, but it's kind of like, well, hey, we see the writing on the wall. It sounds like what you're saying, like, and we see that it's like whatever this new constitutional amendment is, or whatever this new abortion law is that the left's pushing. I mean, there's just no way we're going to beat them. We've seen the polling; the people are not with us, and so we're going to predict defeat. Right. And before that defeat comes, we're going to create a softer pro-life law, literally like putting in more exceptions, expanding how many babies you can kill, so that when we lose, what's it predicting, then at least we'll mitigate some of the damage that's coming down the pipeline. I'm like, dude, the fight hasn't even been had. The debate hasn't even been had. Right. Like, dude, I don't know what to do with that. That's like such an insane defeatist mindset. And that is not the kind of mindset that built the West. It's not the kind of mindset that built this country. And like, I don't know what to do with that, bro.
Right. As you say that, that is extremely common on the right. And, that's been the norm for so long. But as you say that, I'm just thinking of the past 2 weeks. And with the death of Charlie and his example, I think those days are going to end. I think the people who are swelling into the ranks, Lord willing, they're not going to tolerate that anymore. The cowards and the losers who have been leading our institutions for so long, I think more and more you're going to see people look at that and smell the inauthenticity, especially compared to somebody like Charlie Kirk, who was so authentic with much of what he did. And they're not going to tolerate it anymore. And those people who, build their entire careers on soft pedaling and appeasing the left are just going to be cast out into the cold. And I hope it happens soon.
Wow. I heard another story from, I don't want you to like spoil your book. I want people to buy it. But I heard another story from North Dakota, maybe last year. And I even saw the letter of the people. You want to talk about that one? Just give people another example.
Yeah, absolutely. We had House Bill 1373 earlier this year, filed by Lori Van Winkle. So that actually did it advanced out of committee, and it went to the floor and got 16 votes, which is actually a lot for an abolition bill. It's progress. Doesn't sound like much, but that's the best ever. But that previous year, there was actually a resolution in the North Dakota Republican Party to have an equal protection plank in their state platform. So pretty simple language saying we want to protect preborn babies with the same laws, protect everybody else. And there were a handful of national pro-life groups, a couple of them which had signed that national letter from 2022 in Louisiana, that actually wrote another letter as saying to state delegates in North Dakota, you shouldn't pass this resolution either. And among the people who signed it were Kristen Hawkins from Students for Life, Marjorie Dannenfelser from Susan B. Anthony. So a lot of mainstream pro-life leaders were coming out against it. And of course, Kristen Hawkins, unfortunately, earlier this year defended that position and had some pretty absurd ad hominem attacks against people who were pushing that bill, which is really disappointing to see. But it stands to show even after Dobbs, even after Roe was overturned, a lot of these pro-life groups are just so deeply entrenched into this mindset of, opposing equal protection, second victim narrative. All women are victims of abortion. We can never penalize a woman who willfully murders her baby as if she murdered her baby. And I think, again, those groups are losing credibility. People are starting to see through it. Everyday Christians are getting informed about this, expecting the groups they support to actually stand for ending abortion truly. And I think over time, you're going to see more and more of that.
So there's just the principle of justice, right? That's like, regardless of whether we were in 1974 or 2024, Ben, right, that would remain the same. Like, the whole pro-life argument is there's no value-giving difference between baby in the womb and baby outside the womb that justifies killing them in the womb. So that's like straightforward. But then you look at the reality on the ground of what supporting giving women free legal reign to kill their children, what that means in this era where 63% or more of abortions are the RU 486 abortion pill.
Right.
So can you talk us through how damaging giving women legal right to kill their babies actually, like, what does that mean at the state level? When our goal is ending abortion, when almost 2/3 of abortions involve no abortionist and no clinic.
That's right. Yeah. So a lot of pro-life leaders are still entrenched in that mindset of as long as we shut down the clinics, the battle's won. I mean, here in Philadelphia, where abortion is legal through 24 weeks, we've definitely noticed a decline in traffic to the abortion clinic. But we all know it's because the pill is more common. So it's so much easier and cheaper for a woman to go online, order an abortion pill right to her home. Nobody knows about it except her and God, right? And she can murder her baby in her dorm room, in her bedroom, in her bathroom, and perhaps nobody else knows about it at all. So that's the new environment, the new abortion market we're in. It's no longer you have to drive to an abortion clinic and go walk past protesters, walk past Christians who are going to try to convince you to choose life for your baby. Now it's just complete anonymity. You can murder your baby with the complete convenience in your home. And it matters in states like Texas and Oklahoma because you can just order that from a blue states. You can order it from overseas, from a place like India or the Netherlands, where there's already established supply chains of abortion pills. And a lot of lawmakers have been either completely ignoring that problem, pretending like as long as you shut down the clinics, the battle's won, or just very slow to actually realizing that what it's going to take to actually end that from happening or stop that from happening, which is going to be prosecuting people on Texas soil, on Oklahoma soil, on Missouri soil, on Kentucky soil, who are willfully murdering their babies. You can't get to the abortion pill supplier in India or in France or Austria, but you can certainly, target your own citizens who are willfully taking the lives of their babies. You can and should oppose both the supply and the demand of abortion pills.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it seems so simple to me. I don't understand why so many of these pro-life organizations and their CEOs and leaders are trying to stop this because, the increase in the abortion pill from like 2 years before Roe v. Wade got overturned to now in 2025 is bonkers, Ben, bonkers. So like, let's say the pro-life establishment, for lack of a better term, are successful and they ban abortion in nearly every red state. Maybe we even like win back some of the ones that codified abortion into their state constitution in the last couple of years. And we're like, yes, and every abortion mill is shut down. I mean, that you're just sending more women to abortion pill mill websites. Some of these are coming from out of the country, by the way, Ben. Right. Like some of these abortion pills aren't even being sent from manufacturers on U.S. soil. And because it's not a crime for the mother to kill her baby, if it's 63% right now, what's it going to be in 2030, in 2028? And then how are you going to protect those babies? Unless you actually give the same protections to babies in the womb, this thing's never ending. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. So one of the things to do at the Foundation to abolish abortion, in addition to writing legislation, is doing research to support why equal protection is necessary to end abortion. So we had a report a few weeks ago saying that there are actually 250,000 abortions in red states that claim to have banned or mostly banned abortion. So there's about 14 of them.
Whoa.
Think, your total ban states, you'll see some pro-life groups saying they're abortion free. So in 2019, before COVID, before Roe was overturned, there were about 180,000 abortions in those 14 states, and now there's almost 250,000. So clearly whatever's happened over the past 5 or 6 years has not worked to actually end abortion, despite so many leaders and pro-life groups saying that that's happened. So as you're saying, it absolutely matters. This is not just some side issue, the second victim narrative debate. How do we handle this issue? It is critically important to get this right if we actually want to end abortion in places where we should have the political power to do it.
Dang, dude. That's heartbreaking. Last question for you, and then tell people where to get your book. Do you think it's fundamentally ideological, or do you think that it's fundamentally, what's the term? Like an idolatrous obsession for the acceptance of culture? Like, is it kowtowing to the culture, the donors, the political class? Are they enslaved to the GOP? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, whoa, is some of your funding or influence coming from the party that doesn't want this? Or is it actually just a fundamentally philosophical, ideological, error?
I think it's honestly both. I think for so long we've had that mindset of women are second victims of abortion, that the folks who've been in the fight for so long are just very slow to jettison that mentality. That's why you see a lot of younger people being willing to say, no, if a woman willfully murders her baby, of course she should be prosecuted. So some of it is like an old guard versus new guard generational phenomenon. But yeah, some of it is, Republican politics and wanting to not offend the majority leader, the House Speaker in a certain state who doesn't want to take the political risk of actually truly ending abortion. So you see a lot of those controlled opposition groups saying, we're not going to do anything that could make, the Republican power brokers in my state mad. So it's really both. And either way, it's fear of God. It's not fearing. It's fearing man and not fearing God. Ultimately, we all need to fear God. God is one before whom we'll all stand in accounts. Whether you're stewarding millions of dollars from pro-life people in your state to end abortion, whether you're elected to office to protect, establish justice in your jurisdiction, whatever the case may be, we're all going to stand before God, and those sorts of excuses are just not going to fly. Oh, the culture wasn't with me. The donors weren't with me. Ultimately, we need to obey him above all else.
Okay, last thing. I actually sat across the table from someone once who works for Texas Alliance for Life. And it was some pro-life event, and I kind of got into it with him. Here was his argument, and I mean, for me, I was just like, that's ridiculous. But I've since learned that it's actually quite persuasive to some people. This argument kind of prevents them in some way to fully adopting equal rights protection. And here's what this guy said. He said, if you're successful in equal rights protection across the board, it's treated the same as killing an infant, you're going to turn pregnancy resource centers into mandatory reporters, and you'll destroy the pregnancy resource center movement. What's your response to that?
Yeah, that's still no excuse. I mean, I know a handful of pregnancy resource center leaders who would say, no, I'd rather have the abolition bill because I don't want abortion to be legal in my state, even if it decreases traffic to the pregnancy resource center. And I think we all agree, those centers are going to exist after abortion is abolished, because we're still going to need to help mothers who are needy, who have difficult life circumstances that are tempting them toward abortion. That's a wonderful Christian ministry we should all be supporting, but I don't think that's a sufficient reason. I mean, in that same vein, another excuse I hear is you're going to open up a surveillance state against all mothers, who have abortions. And it's the same as any other murder case. You need probable cause. You need, a grand jury to issue an indictment. It's still the same legal process as murdering a born person, So unless there's a very good reason or evidence that emerges to suggest that somebody willfully murdered their baby, that's not going to happen. So there's all these sorts of excuses that we can bring up. But ultimately, we all know what's right at the end of the day, which is just criminalizing abortion, ending abortion, truly and totally, abolishing it once and for all. And no excuse is going to stop that, Lord willing.
Yeah. What's the name of your book, and why should people read it?
Yeah, Forsakers of the Fatherless, The Secret Treachery of the Pro-Life Establishment. And really, it's a pretty succinct just data dump in terms of public statements, interviews. You'll hear from Christians on the ground in these states who are trying to end abortion and are getting obstructed and subverted by the same groups they thought were there to actually end it with them. So you may have heard about this circulating online for the past few years, but this is the open and shut case showing that this is actually a phenomenon. It's not a one-off situation. It's happening across the country. It's a huge problem. It's a good resource to give to your pastor or your state lawmaker or something to that effect to make sure that they're aware this is happening. So that's why you should get it. I tried to write a book that wasn't just going to repeat, the theological case for abolition. That book's been written. I wanted to write something that was actually going to change the conversation, the politics surrounding it. So that's why I wrote the book.
Wonderful. Where can people get the book, and where can they follow your writing and all?
Yeah, so the book is available at Founders Ministries, press.founders.org. I'm on X at Ben Zeisloft, and then you can follow Foundation to Abolish Abortion at faa.life is our website. Awesome.
Ben, thank you for your courage, brother. Thank you for going where it's uncomfortable to go and where it's often not financially beneficial. And thank you for caring more about the unborn babies and the truth. than your access to the inner halls of power. We appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, praise the Lord. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. All right, go pick up his book, Forsakers of the Fatherless. Ben's young, guys. He's going places, and the church needs to listen to the fighters who are actually up front, telling us what this is actually like and why, in so many cases, babies are actually not getting the same protection that they deserve and that we would want for ourselves. Go pick up his book. Give him a follow. Until next week, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is The Seth Gruber Show.